Hey, just as a reminder, I'm a narrator on Chilling, the awesome horror app that features over 1,000 horror stories, over a dozen narrators, some of whom you might know from YouTube, as well as full-length novels, an exclusive series, and Chilling originals. You can select and change the ambient sound in the background of the stories whenever you want, without affecting the story you're listening to, and we release hours of new stories every week. Click the link in the description to download and start your free trial to see if you like it. Also, Chilling is always doing fantastic giveaways, and in time for the holidays, we are giving away a PS5 bundle that includes the disc version console, 2 games, and some Chilling merch. Click the link in the description to learn how you can win. Best of luck! This happened 3 years ago at a New Year's party. It was New Year's Eve night, and I was having several friends over at my house. My house was really close to the city and in a busy neighborhood. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-story house, and at the time, I had only lived there for a few months. Most of my friends and the people that I invited were from work. We all worked for a fairly large company, and most of us were in the same department. At first, it was just going to be about 5 of us, but soon around the office, the word spread, and a few other people asked if they could come by. I said sure, and I was excited, because I felt like the more people, the more fun it would be. Most people were going to bring something, like a food or a drink, and then we could all share and play some games and stuff. My house is more space than I need, so I felt like I could set it up really nice for everyone. When New Year's Eve came, people started showing up at about 6 p.m. It started with my best friend Ben, then a few more people came. Before I knew it, there were probably 15 or so of my friends and coworkers there. We had lots of snacks and played a few games. I remember at one point, there was this one guy inside that I did not recognize. I wasn't really sure who he came with. I noticed that he was talking to Rachel, who was one of my coworkers, and I assumed that maybe he came with her, or at least he knew her, because they looked like they were deep into a conversation. Later on, I saw the guy again, and this time, he was just kind of standing in the corner. It seemed a little suspicious to me, so I decided to ask a couple of people if they knew who he was. Nobody that I spoke with knew, however. I decided that I would go locate Rachel and ask her who the guy was. When I found her, she was in the dining room, sitting at the table, talking with another coworker. I tapped her on the shoulder and asked her who she had been talking to. She told me that she had no idea who the guy was, but she thought that he was acting like a creep towards her. She then told me that the guy said he was an old friend of mine. I got nervous when I heard this. I was sure that I didn't know this guy at all, and I had no clue how or why he was here. I knew that I would have to ask him to leave, but I really didn't want to. Confronting people or causing a conflict is usually something I try to avoid. I walked back out to the living room and looked to the same corner of the room that I had seen him standing in, but he was now gone. I was thinking and hoping that he had left, and I felt a little bit relieved. I went over and asked one of my friends, Jake, who was nearby, if the guy had left, but instead, Jake told me that the guy had gone upstairs. My relieved feeling went away immediately. There was no reason for the guy to go upstairs. The whole party was downstairs, and I had a feeling the guy was up to no good. I found Ben and told him about the guy going upstairs. He agreed to go upstairs with me to check in case the guy was dangerous or something. We both walked up the staircase and into the dark hallway, which had 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and a closet. We both immediately noticed that the door to the spare bedroom was closed, and it had been opened before. I knocked on the door, asking who was in there, trying to sound confident, but probably sound scared instead. Nobody answered, though. We both went back downstairs. I was hoping that the guy would come back down and leave, and decided that if he didn't leave within the hour, I would call the police. By this time, it was pretty late and nearly midnight. We remained downstairs for a while, probably more than an hour, and after midnight, people started leaving. Ben stayed with me to make sure that the guy would leave, though. When everyone else was gone, and it was just me, Ben, and the mysterious man, we went back upstairs. This time, we went straight to the closed guest bedroom door and knocked on it. We said we were going to call the police if the man didn't leave now. We both waited for a response. Things were silent for about 10 seconds. Then, we heard the sound of somebody walking behind us. We turned around to just barely see the guy going down the stairs and out of sight. After that, the front door opened and shut. The guy was now gone. He must have been hiding in my bedroom instead of the guest bedroom. Ben and I were just happy that he was gone now. The craziest part is that he didn't steal anything at all. This makes me worry if he came here just to harm somebody. Luckily, he left when I threatened to call the police. For some background, I'm a female, and this took place a few years ago. I was invited by some of my friends to go to a New Year's Eve celebration in the city. I live about 10 minutes away from a large city, and every year they have activities in the city for New Year's Eve. I had never been to it before, and usually we would just go to somebody's house. There were about 5 of us meeting up at 10 p.m. that night. I had to work and didn't get off until after 9 p.m., so I couldn't get there right when the rest of my friends did. I got back from work, changed, and then left. When I got to the city, my friends had only just got there, and they told me where they were. Unfortunately for me, I'm always really bad with directions. It was really hard to find a parking space, but finally I was able to. I had to park a distance away though, and when I finally did park, I wasn't as familiar with that particular area. I got out of my car. It was a smaller looking park, and I knew I had to walk about 8 blocks. It was surprisingly dark and quiet when I started walking. After going maybe 2 or 3 blocks, I felt like I was going in the wrong direction, and I was a little bit confused. I wasn't seeing very many people at all, and if I had been going the right way, I should have probably started to see them by now. I took out my phone and looked at the map, but I was still confused. As I was standing there looking, I heard a voice from behind me. It startled me, and I saw a guy standing there. He was pretty tall and had on a black coat. He looked slightly older than me, and asked if I was going to the New Year's event. I told him that I was, and he told me he was going there as well. This made me feel good because I was having a tough time figuring things out. The guy started walking, and I followed him. He walked a few feet in front of me, and we went a few blocks down the street. However, after a few minutes, I just felt like we weren't going in the right direction still. I wasn't seeing many other people at all, but I kept following the guy. We walked for another minute or so, and then the man slowed down and started to walk next to me all of a sudden. I slowed down too because I was kind of confused as to what he was doing. That's when he grabbed my arm. When he did, he shoved me to the right near the street. There were lots of cars parked on the side of the street still, and he pushed me towards one, and then I saw it unlock. It must be his car. I told the guy to let me go, but he didn't say anything. He just kept pushing me, and then told me to get inside of his car. I was trying to get away and struggling with the man. He was starting to overpower me, and had opened his car door. I thought for a moment that I wasn't going to be able to get away, but somehow, when I kicked him, his grip loosened a little. Then I kicked him again. I was able to just get free enough to push him and then start to run away. But when I did, he chased after me. I ran directly across the street and back to the park. I kept running until I didn't hear him chasing after me anymore. I had no clue where I was anymore at this point, and I called one of my friends. After a few minutes, I was able to figure things out and find the right direction of how to get to them. The rest of the time walking towards them, I was really nervous, but eventually I did get there. I also called the police once I was with my friends, and I told them about the whole situation. At the end of the day, I feel very lucky to be alive after that. This happened on December 31st, 2020. We visited my aunt's house to stay there for their New Year's party. She invited the whole family there each year for New Year's Eve. On this night, it was around 11 p.m. I was just on my phone watching YouTube videos and being bored. I then heard Luna, my aunt's dog, barking at the window. I was confused at first, but I just looked at the window without thinking. When I did, I thought I saw a person's head, but it ducked down like half a second later. I nearly had a heart attack about what I saw. I looked out the window to see the person, but to my surprise, they weren't there. It was also pitch black, so I couldn't see a thing. I told Luna that we were seeing things, then she calmed down. After around 30 minutes later, my mom called me saying that it was time for board games. I was excited about that because I was usually really good at them. We were on our 3rd game, which was Jenga, when all of a sudden the power went out. We were all confused at first, and so were the dogs. A few minutes went by, and my dad and 2 of my uncles decided to take a look at the generator, which was outside the house. They went outside and turned the power back on, but as soon as they did, we saw a person which was about 6 feet tall running towards them. We heard noises of men fighting. Meanwhile, one of my aunts was on the line with the police. The police said they would arrive within 5 to 10 minutes, but that was not what I wanted to hear, because I know the fight would take like 2 minutes to finish up, and sure enough, it did. The person took off running to the backyard into the woods. After about 5 minutes, the police arrived and did a search of the woods, but the man wasn't found. The police told us that they would patrol the area for about an hour. That made me feel better, but I was still worried that the man might come back. After the police left, we went back to our board games, and at around 12:40, our family was leaving. We got into the car and drove home. However, that's not the end of my story, because I woke up at 2:30 in the morning to the sound of a car outside my window. I looked outside, and sure enough, it was the same man from my aunt and uncle's house. I got up and went to my parents' room and woke them up. My dad looked out my window and saw the man walking towards our backyard holding a crowbar. My mom took out her phone and called the police, and they said they would arrive in 5 minutes. The man, meanwhile, was at our back door trying to break in, but he didn't succeed. The police arrived and arrested the man. I felt way better and was able to sleep well that night. That was a couple of years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. To this day, I get creeped out to think of what the man would have done to us.